Welcome to Believe, the Conspiracy Theory Podcast. I'm Phil Green.
And I'm David Ferguson.
And we are two comedians presenting a podcast all about the world's craziest conspiracy theories. Unless
they're actually revealing the truth.
Unless they're revealing the truth. Because you very much like to believe, don't you?
I do. My eyes are wide open.
Yeah, and I like to skeptic. That's what I like to do. In each episode, we bring on a fellow comedian. That comedian picks a conspiracy theory they want to talk about. It might be a conspiracy theory they believe in. It might be a conspiracy theory they don't believe in. Or it might simply be a conspiracy theory they think is the most ridiculous thing they've ever heard.
Unless it's true.
Unless it's true, and that's what we're here to try to find out with facts that we found on the internet, which, let's face it, is the most reliable place you can get your facts from, and what's inside your head.
My big Irish head.
Your big old Irish head. And what's inside our guest's head as well. Now, we are also on social media, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're on TikTok while it still lasts.
Yes.
We're on Instagram and we're on YouTube.
It's at believeconspiracypod. Please do follow us. We want to know what you think about the conspiracy theories that we've been talking about. Like, comment on our videos. Let us know what you think. Did we get something wrong? Did we get something right? What is your opinion? Have you experienced something? We want to know, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. We want the inside scoop from you. If you know something that we don't, tell us. And if there's conspiracy theories that you would like us to talk about, we will find a comedian to discuss them.
Yes, let us know the conspiracy theories you want us to talk about. We'll put them on our list, and we will definitely find somebody who wants to talk about those. Yes. Now, I'm still on tour. I've got a few dates left on my show, 4 Weddings and a Breakdown. I'm doing Liverpool on the 4th of April, Peterborough on the 20th of April, and Poole on the 1st of June. If you go into the show notes of any of our episodes, there is a link there to buy tickets, or you can go onto philgreencomedy.com, and there is a link there as well. Now, we should give a big shout out to our tech today.
Yes.
The wonderful Luke.
Yay!
Who is our wonderful guest today?
Well, today we have the superlative Bex Turner.
The wonderful Bex Turner. Bex is a fantastic comedian. She is a very, very unique comedian. You will not see anyone else like her. She is so eccentric and surreal, and she's a brilliant character comedy act. The comedy is very dark. It's nonsensical. It's so much fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bex had a fantastic show called Bex's Chainsaw Moussaka at the Edinburgh Fringe, which, I mean, you can't find a better name for a show than that.
Oh, my goodness. The wordplay there. Chef's kiss. Oh.
It was an absolutely batshit crazy show, but it was so much fun to watch. She's also been in Funny Women. She is a Pebble Trust Award winner. She's just a joy. And I think, to be honest, a perfect guest for this podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So full of energy. And she knows everything.
She really does, which is exactly why she's here. And the conspiracy theory that Bex has chosen is...
Queen Elizabeth I was a man.
Queen Elizabeth I was a man. Ooh. Let's bring on Bex.
Woo!
Get out of the rabbit hole.
It's a fake. Every single bird in the sky is a robot.
It's fiction.
Doubt your government.
It's an urban legend.
Like, if they're actually spraying something in the sky.
No way.
A stream of absurdity.
It's a total fabrication.
Welcome to the podcast, Bex Turner! Yay! Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You brought some brightness to the room.
Oh, thank you.
We're very
Nice of
we're very
you.
dark today. You've got me like a nice bright jumper.
Yes.
It's okay. I'm not London-based.
Yes. So she's happy, is what she's trying to
You're
say.
bringing the brightness of Brighton to us, isn't that right?
Yeah.
See on the underground, and all the people are wearing long black coats, and it's like Jesus.
We're all in mourning for our dreams. That's what it is.
This is why you live in Brighton,
Yeah.
the sunshine city.
And very, very angry seagulls.
Yeah.
Very angry.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a fight with a seagull?
For me,
Yeah.
I haven't been in a fight, but I think it's because, as you said, I live in Brighton, and so I think a lot of tourists, when they come, they don't realise that in order to stop the seagull from eating like your food or like your sandwich, you have to kind of stare them down and like kind of stand your ground in a way.
Yep.
So
Stare
you've
them
got-
out?
Yeah, you've got to stare them out,
Ah.
like kind of, because if they see you like kind of watching them and like staring them out, then they won't try it. I mean, well, they'll try it, but they won't go like, "Hello."
They prey on your weakness.
They prey on your-
I didn't know that. They watch you and prey on your weakness.
I
You've got to
fuckers.
stare at.
I
make
went.
sure they don't eat them.
I went. One of the times I was in Brighton, I was putting up posters for the show Phil, I, and Emily McQuaid were doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought myself an ice cream because you're by the beach. You're going to buy yourself an ice cream. And before I had the first lick, a seagull came along and took it, and no one saw. And I was like, "But that was amazing!" Like it was. And I was so traumatized, but it made me laugh for about 20 minutes because
Yeah.
and I didn't have the money to get another ice
They
cream.
knew
'cause
they
it was
knew
very
you were a
sad.
Londoner.
Oh my gosh!
You're a
Yes.
mile
yes,
off.
Yes.
No.
So I'm always very wary of the seagulls. There was another time I was there with Louise Atkinson, and we were having chips, and something happened. We looked a different way, and the chips were gone when we came back, and it was like in 2 seconds. We didn't even hear them. So seagulls, I don't like them.
This is how you spot the tourists. Don't how to deal with the seagulls. Yeah. I know.
Or they block the pavement, like, because I've had that where I'm trying to go to work, like at lunchtime or something, and yeah, like groups of day trippers from like Essex or Chelmsford or something, and they're like massive family groups, and then just block the pavement, and it's like,
Yeah.
this is really annoying. Just
slow
hurry up.
walkers.
We get that in London as well.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I used to be such a nice boy, and now I just push past. It's terrible.
no.
I'm a terrible. I've gone over to the dark side.
I think you should be allowed to kill one a day, like one person down an escalator. Oh,
Do you know? I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
just one
doesn't
person.
mean it, YouTubers.
No, we don't mean it, but we wish it was true.
Yeah, I wish it was true. You're writing a new show.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a title yet or not?
I do. Yes.
What's it called?
It's called Bectual Healing.
And is it as crazy as the last show?
Hopefully, I'm challenging myself to do. I know it's kind of like a bit of a hack thing at the moment to do like a character comedy show, but I've always done character comedy stuff.
Brilliantly.
So it's like, oh, thank you. But I know a lot of other people are doing it now, so it doesn't feel quite as. Do you know
Well,
what I'm
but no one's going to do what you do.
No,
I mean,
not.
Literally, no one's going to do what you do, Bex.
saying?
That's for
It's
sure.
going to be more character based and challenging myself to do characters and not do stand up.
yeah.
Because I enjoy that bit.
And like multiple characters.
Yeah, multiple characters.
That's
yeah.
cool. Do you do like costume changes in show?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
probably, but they won't be too wild. No.
Yeah, just the idea of the
yeah.
Because I love your voice work. I love what you do with your voice.
Oh, thank you.
You know, and I think that's it's truth. Like one of the reasons you're on here is because we think you're great. You know, also you threaten us. No, I'm joking. We know how you treat.
She knows the seagulls.
Yeah.
She does know the
She's
seagulls.
in with the seagulls.
Oh wow! Now I'm scared.
That's sad. That's like the episode of Hey Arnold, where like Arnold befriends like, is it Pigeon Man?
Yeah.
And like he's this like mysterious kind of recluse who like lives with pigeons and he rears pigeons and he encourages the man to like go and talk to the people, but then like his horrible friends like all these kids and Hey Arnold go and like wreck his like coop of pigeons.
Pigeons.
And so they fly away, so it's kind of like a weird analogy for like death as well.
Hey, Arnold's a great show.
It's really dark.
It's very deep. It's deep. Yeah.
90s cartoons were the best.
Yeah, that depth. It's not like that anymore, is it?
No.
Yeah, it probably is. We just don't watch cartoons. Well, maybe
Well, no,
you do
I
actually.
I do
Yeah.
watch cartoons. Oh yeah. Like
He won't let go.
I love cartoons.
What
I love
cartoons
cartoons.
do you
Well,
have?
I was really into Ninjago for ages. You know, the Lego cartoon. That was terrific stuff. Like the plots and everything, and the character designs, and it was great.
Yeah.
Loved Ninjago. It got to the point. By season 30, it was too twisted at that point. But like the first 12 seasons are some of the best. But I also watch mature cartoons as well, and I watch anime because
Yeah.
I am a geek.
Yeah,
I'm so lonely.
and a fully grown adult. So Bex, conspiracy theories. Now you, I know you're into this a little bit. Like this is an area that interests you a bit. What do you think about conspiracy theories in general, though? Like when you meet a conspiracy theorist, what do you think? Do you immediately judge, or do you sort of sit back and listen? What's your feeling with conspiracy theories?
For me, I do enjoy conspiracy theories. And I think it's definitely very entertaining, particularly when I look on YouTube and you see all these wild kind of conspiracies. I think I'm quite interested in the conspiracy theories that are related to lost media.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
lost, like Nickelodeon stuff. If we're allowed to say that, YouTube.
Yeah.
I know.
Lost kids TV programs on certain TV networks. There you go. We can edit them in between. And so I think I just like all the hidden lore of kind of like lost pilots or lost episodes or lost kind of TV, when like you have kids TV shows and like the network kind of gets taken over by a weird signal and someone flashes up like a weird messed up message or adverts that got removed for like dark reasons.
Yeah.
So I like conspiracy theories, but more related to kind of maybe pop culture
Oh yeah.
and media.
Yeah.
And also, I think we can all take a lot of inspiration from Dale from King of the Hill. Because he was the original OG of conspiracy
Oh,
theories.
he was. We love Dale.
Yeah.
That's
he was knowledgeable in everything apart from the fact his son wasn't actually his son. So.
That's a good reference that I hadn't thought about for a long time. It's a good
sorry.
point, actually. Yeah.
Hanging Hill's such a
Maybe
good
that's the
theory.
root of this. We just don't, on a subliminal level, we haven't realised it. That's what's inspired us to do this.
Yeah, well, because Dale is that type of conspiracy theorist that has guns, and we're not that kind of.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Conspiracy
Yeah, we're
theorists.
definitely not that kind of conspiracy theorist. You hear that, YouTube? We're definitely not. Yeah, well, it is interesting, and also you like say about lost episodes, because there's a few lost episodes of Doctor Who, right?
Yeah.
From the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Doctor Who where the BBC network got hijacked in the mid episode, or something like that? I think.
I mean, there's been a number of times the TV's been hijacked. The most famous one is the Mad Max incident.
That's the one. Max Headroom, was it?
Max Headroom.
Yeah.
Not Mad Max. Mad Max is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
No, Max Headroom. And it got hijacked for like 12 minutes. Someone in a Mad Max. Excuse me, Max Headroom mask talking on air in the United States.
Yeah.
So you can that's searchable. You can find that on YouTube. But that they don't know how it was done. And they still don't know how it was done. How it was hijacked. They've got supposition, and it's but it did happen.
Yeah. Or why actually?
Well, there wasn't anything particular.
No, it wasn't.
Said.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't on any kind of campaign or mission, but seemingly was it?
It was just odd.
Yeah.
It was just odd and weird and unsettling. And in the Tim Burton Batman, the Joker hijacks the TV channel.
Yeah.
And that was the reason that it's in that episode, that movie, is because of what happened with Max Headroom earlier. That was the influence. Although it was not as slick as the Joker's. I mean, Smilex.
This is what he does, Bex. He comes out with a gem. Like, honestly, there'll
That's
be
so
3 or 4.
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Well done.
There's 4 or 5 of these every episode. You're like, how do you know that?
Because I know nothing important.
It's okay. It's really important.
It's important. The conspiracy theory that you've chosen, Bex, is Queen Elizabeth I was a man. Now, this is a very old conspiracy theory. I think we all know that. And it's one that's... So I don't know if this is the original conspiracy theory, but I can't think of too many that date back further than this one. Queen Elizabeth I, daughter of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, reigned from 1558 until her death in 1603. Throughout her reign, she faced numerous challenges, both domestically and internationally, but she managed to establish England as a major European power and presided over a period of relative stability and prosperity known as the Elizabethan era. The theory that Elizabeth was a man often hinges on supposed evidence such as portraits, historical accounts, and her unmarried status. However, these claims have been thoroughly examined and refuted by experts in the field. One common argument revolves around the absence of childbirth, suggesting that Elizabeth could not bear children because she was biologically male. However, Elizabeth's childlessness can be attributed to various factors, including political considerations rather than her gender. Additionally, portraits of Elizabeth depict her in elaborate dresses and with distinctly feminine features, contradicting the notion that she was actually male. Moreover, contemporary accounts from diplomats, ambassadors, and foreign rulers consistently refer to Elizabeth as female. The theory of Elizabeth being a man is often considered part of a broader trend of historical revisionism and conspiracy theories that seek to undermine established historical narratives. While it may persist in some fringe circles, it lacks credible evidence and that is not taken seriously by any mainstream historians.
No woman could be such a great leader.
And that's really the root of this, isn't it?
I think so. Essentially, yes. That people didn't believe that this woman could necessarily lead or be queen, even though she was the daughter of Henry VIII.
Queen Elizabeth coming to power, because I love all the all the dramas that they've done about it. With like Glenda Jackson and Anne-Marie Duffy and Kate Blanchett. Oh my goodness!
Blanchett, yeah.
Like those are like I've watched them all recently,
Yeah.
And there was a chance that she wasn't going to become queen. There was a chance she wasn't going to live.
Both her siblings were king and queen before her, weren't they? Because Henry VIII it took ages for him to have a son, didn't it?
Yeah.
And
son didn't really live.
No, the son didn't. Son did become king, but was only king for I think 6 or 7 years or something like that. Not very long. Then his other daughter was queen, and then Mary, and then Elizabeth became queen. So she was like third choice, and she is the most remembered of the 3 by quite some way, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
But like Queen Mary, that's Mary of Mary quite contrary. How does your garden grow? And it sounds like quite a sweet childhood rhyme, and really what they're talking about is her torture devices. You know, she was Bloody Mary, not the one that you speak to in the mirror, though. But that's where that's where it came from. She was ferocious.
Although I heard that, like, once again, there was that input from misogynist, like, male historians or male history-based facts, where if you look at it, like, even though Mary I is like known as being like gory and horrible, her father was way worse.
Oh, way worse. Yeah.
So they're trying to like maybe discredit Mary I.
Yeah.
And she also had like issues with like kind of giving birth, where like there's some like dispute as to whether or not she like had a tumor or something, or that she wanted to be pregnant so much that she kind of
thought she was,
phantom or like envisioned that she was pregnant, even though she wasn't. She still had all the symptoms of, which is a little bit of a.
There is sadness to her, you know. But we're talking about kings and queens, so fuck them. But you know, but there is a sadness to her, and like King Henry VIII, like he saw his wives go to their deaths, like the guy was not a nice guy, you know.
But the thing is, the way he's remembered, and this is probably embedded in the way that history is written, is we all kind of, he's probably the most remembered monarchy, right? He's internationally, other than the current, or maybe Queen Victoria, maybe Queen Elizabeth II, but actually. Yeah, like you say, not a nice guy, but we all laugh about him. Oh, he had 6 wives, you know, and he created Church of England, etc., etc. But yeah, not a nice dude.
No, not at all. It was all about him being selfish.
Yeah, but yet doesn't have a label, like you say, Bloody Mary, because...
Yeah, but come on, wouldn't you rather have the label?
Yeah, it is a pretty cool name,
you know, like,
say.
you know, and she's Bloody Mary was Catholic, so I'm always like, ha ha ha. No, it's so weird. I'm from Northern Ireland.
She is your god.
She is my god. No, I always like a Catholic diva.
Nice. Who's your favourite Derry Girl?
So Tara Lynn O'Neill plays the mom in it with the blonde perm.
Yeah,
and I know her from.
You know her from?
Do you know? Shut up.
So like when Derry Girls
Island.
is happening, and when Derry Girls is happening, and first of all, she was playing the mom. I'm going, are we old enough to be playing parents now? Yeah. Like, and
but they age her up.
Because she's gorgeous. Yeah. She's gorgeous. Like, and she's such a lovely person. And but when I saw her in that, I was like, oh my god, that's Tara Lynn.
Yeah,
because Tara Lynn's not her really. Not a real name, but well, Tara is. But anyway, I'm getting off the point. But I had friends of mine sending in, would film with their phones, Derry Girls, and send those clips to me and go, "What are they saying?"
Yeah.
Like my friend Robert would do that and going, well, and I couldn't understand why they couldn't understand it, because of course I grew up with like it's
I think it's subtitled in the US for that reason.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah.
As was Father Ted, as was Rob Cines, but.
Yeah, I have to say it's one of the best comedies of the last 10 years. I think it's so brilliant.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brought peace. Like you can go to Derry, Stroke City, Londonderry.
There's a mural of them, isn't there? There's a mural.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely things moving on.
Who's your favourite Derry Girl?
Oh, that's so hard. I like Orla.
Oh yeah,
she's inoffensive.
She's inoffensive. Yeah, she's great. I've spent a bit of time in Derry. I've been to a few weddings there. And you think it's like exaggerated, and you go there, and you're like, oh no, it's pretty accurate. Yeah.
It's a documentary.
Yeah,
and like
Father Ted.
Like Father Ted is a documentary. There's a bit in Father Ted where the priests talk about how black their socks are. Yeah, and I swear to God, I've heard priests talk like that. Mm-hmm. So like priests have the blackest of socks.
Yeah,
and I would agree with that.
So the theory, according to the theory, Elizabeth died of a fever in 1542 while approaching her 9th birthday. According to the legend, she was sent away from London to avoid an outbreak of the plague. Henry VIII was famously very paranoid about his health, having almost daily examinations by his physicians, and his concern extended to his children. Elizabeth was sent to the small farming town of Bisley with her governess, Lady Kate Ashby, and her guardian, Thomas Parry. Here, Elizabeth avoided the plague, but instead caught a serious illness and died. Supposedly, the young princess was staying at Overcourt House, which is near Bisley. Kat and Thomas were obviously distraught. They did not want to be the ones to tell the infamously ill-tempered and quick to execute dispute, Henry VIII, that his daughter had died in their care. To make things worse, Henry decided he was going to travel to the town to visit his daughter. Kat and Thomas decided to go for the quick fix answer and deal with the situation later. They searched the village for a young girl of the same age as Elizabeth that they could pass off as the princess for the meantime. Unfortunately, no girl of the same age could be found, but a red-headed boy that resembled Elizabeth in face and stature was found. Kat dressed the boy, whose name was Neville, in Elizabeth's clothes, and somehow Henry VIII was tricked by the ruse. The deception continued, and eventually things had gone too far to turn back, so those involved made a pact never to tell, and Neville became Elizabeth. Elizabeth was anonymously buried in the grounds of Overcourt, while the impostor was prepped for the king's visit. The so-called Bisley boy would go on to become one of England's most celebrated monarchs, Queen Elizabeth I, or so the story goes.
So it's Neville the First.
Neville the First, yeah. I mean, the whole thing seems fantastical. I suppose you could argue, I mean, it was centuries ago, and he wasn't that close to Elizabeth, was he? In fact, I don't think he was that close to any of his kids, wasn't he? Because he didn't
As
want...
a king, you wouldn't be.
No.
You wouldn't be.
No.
It was functional rather than... Like he wasn't really a parent. Like you were brought up by other people. Like Prince Charles talks about that. Like he didn't really have a relationship with his family. That's why he's so fucked up and killed his first wife. Oh no, I didn't say that. I didn't say it actually wasn't him. It was Prince Philip. Anyway, no. But yeah, they didn't care, which is why they're monarchs.
What he wanted, because Henry VIII wanted a son, didn't he? He wanted a son as an heir, and he didn't have actually many children considering the number of wives he had.
Well, he didn't have legitimate children. So because there were sons with mistresses, because Kate Middleton's descended from one of them.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, it was the Archduke of whoever, but the Archduke of whoever was King Henry's illegitimate son.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, even if you're not close to your daughter, right? You'd know, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Would he know? As you said a minute ago, he wouldn't really care, would he? He's not really focusing on that.
No, but I'm sure they could find one girl.
Yeah.
And I guess like also as like Neville grew older, like with all like royal queens or princesses at that time period, they probably would, in order for them to be deemed fit for copulation, they would have been checked by a royal physician.
Yeah.
And if the physician's like, oh hello, hello, this is not meant to be here. Like, who's he going to tell? So now he's involved in this whole farce of like Neville in this like weird Elizabethan like parent trap thing.
I suppose in that era, it would have been easier to lock that information down than it would be now, right? Like, if you wanted to keep something a secret, it would be a lot easier to do than now.
Yeah,
especially with the power that a monarchy had then.
Oh, absolutely. Like one of the Elizabeth shows that I didn't mention was the one that Helen Mirren did, and
also didn't Elizabeth get played by what's the actress in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?
Oh yes, Betty Davis played
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
A version of Elizabeth.
Yeah. Like, and she shaved her hairline back. So that's something that Betty Davis always did when she was young and beautiful. She kept getting casting roles where she'd be made to be grotesque or ugly.
Yeah.
And then by the time she was a bit older, she was like, "Oh, I can't do the beautiful movies now." Poor Betty Davis. Oh, she was gorgeous. I don't care. But yes, Helen Mirren was in a production for Channel 4 about Elizabeth. And pretty much the opening sequence is her being tested that she's still fertile. And then the next sequence is someone who wrote a pamphlet against the monarchy getting his hand taken off for speaking against the monarchy. So like you couldn't really speak out against the monarchy in any way, and this would be speaking out against the monarchy, because there was the thing about Elizabeth was she was a Protestant queen, and Mary had been a Catholic queen, so that there was the Catholic Protestant things was diverse. But the thing with Elizabeth was she was actually quite good with the Catholics. King Henry VIII had taken all the monasteries and all the Catholic grounds when he ceded away from the Pope, whereas Queen Elizabeth was quite. One of the reasons that they called her the Virgin Queen was to play into the Virgin Mary, like that was, and that's why she had the very white face and the interpretation of how she looked. But that can also play into, well, she looks so weird and ungodly with her black teeth and her white face because, in fact, she was actually a guy called Neville.
Yeah.
You know.
But
It
I mean,
could have been like a lot of religious people also like using the rumor that she was a man against her as well. You never know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do, as you say, dispute her honor or
Yeah. It was insulting, you know.
I mean, she was. I mean, we'll come on to it because she was checked by. There's documentary. She was checked by physicians a couple of times. So yeah.
just
But
when she was. Did they check her after she died?
no, because she didn't want that. It was under her orders. She didn't want a post-mortem, which is one of the things that kind of fuels the conspiracy theory. However, that said, there are some people that are just very private people, right? You don't necessarily especially if you're at that level of because you would have been the most famous person in the country, right? So you don't really want anyone if you as a doctor or an advisor or dressing you, don't you want people that you trust around you.
She was a queen. I mean, speaking as an Irishman, I'm not big into the royalty, but I do love Queen Elizabeth. I do. I think she's great. And
she was very popular with the subjects. I should say that relatively popular with the subjects.
she was a popular queen.
I would caveat that by saying, in comparison to her predecessors, who weren't overly popular. But yeah, I mean, she did do quite a lot of good for the country, probably, arguably more so than some of her predecessors.
Yeah, or people that followed her.
Yeah.
And also like Blackadder too. That's the best Blackadder.
It is the best
Queenie
Blackadder.
is awesome.
Queenie, yeah. She's my favourite character in any of the Blackadders.
But do we? Spoilers for a 40-year-old show. But do you know how Blackadder 2 ends?
God, I can't remember.
Right. So
Do they all? No.
they all get killed.
And
it's a man that takes over as Queen Elizabeth. Yeah.
Is that the last episode of season 2?
So they're fueling the conspiracy.
Oh.
I mean, it's quite funny, but it's so I can see they played it for lulz.
You mean Blackadder the Second isn't historically accurate?
Oh God, Blackadder the Second. I think it's my favourite season, and I love Blackadder the Fourth, but Blackadder the Second, because of Queenie, I think is just brilliant.
So good.
Yeah.
So good because you like her and she's just evil.
So source of the theory, the notion first came to light in the mid-19th century when the Reverend Thomas Keble, who was Bisley's vicar, discovered a stone coffin while Overcourt House was undergoing renovation. Inside there were remains of a girl dressed in Tudor garments. What seeded the idea is that this was child Elizabeth's skeleton is unknown. Moreover, historians have not been able to find any contemporary evidence that Elizabeth was even staying there at the time. In any case, the local story caught the attention of Dracula author Bram Stoker, who came across it while house hunting in the Cotswolds for his friend, the actor Henry Irving. Bram had visited Bisley, where he saw a May Day celebration. In this celebration, a young boy was dressed up in Elizabethan female clothing as the May Queen. This, of course, intrigued Bram, and he questioned the locals. Through talking to townspeople and doing his own research, he found the curious story that a local boy named Neville had become the famous Tudor Queen. In 1910, Stoker published his book, Famous Imposters and the Bisley Boy Legend, and this was a big part of it. He put all sorts of arguments into it. He'd really given it some thought, and so it's Stoker's account that really brought this conspiracy to prominence. That I honestly did not know till I started researching this. That is fascinating.
Well, I love Dracula. It's one of my favorite books. I read it pretty much every year. I open it and go, I'll read that little bit. Then I'm 4 chapters in.
Yeah.
I have never heard of that book by Bram Stoker. Wow.
It doesn't say. I have to say, I don't know whether he published it under his name. I imagine he would have done because
I will be. I haven't read that book. I've read all of Bram Stoker's books, and I haven't read that book. So that's weirded me out.
I mean,
I'm intrigued. It feels like the way you described it almost sounds like a plot for like Midsummer Murders.
Yeah.
And that is like kind of culty, middle classy, midsummer murdery.
Who doesn't love folk horror though? You know.
Yeah.
No, it's quite folk horror, isn't it? Like the little myth of this Neville,
the May
boy
Queen,
who'll become queen.
But with someone with his
icon.
with his
Oh my god, yeah.
We love yes, Queen.
Midsummer.
maybe that was the thinking.
Yeah.
But someone of his status, right, publishing a book that is a non-fiction, arguably a non-fiction book at that time, that kind of, I can see why this took off, right? Because at that time he would have been one of the biggest authors in the world. He has a name. If you publish something that you've labelled as non-fiction, people at that time probably are going to read it and believe it, because where else are you going to get a counter source of information from, right?
I mean, it's certainly. I mean, I want to read the book, so
Yeah.
you know, it's certainly interesting.
Also, if you think about it, in that period, like a lot of like people, like, and also the lot of the literary bohemia or all those kind of artsy fartsy peeps, where the majority of them probably would have been like men, and like and then the male members of the public would have only really listened to their opinion. If you had, like, for example, one individual female intellectual who would be like, that doesn't sound quite right, they would have been like, what do you know, woman?
Yeah.
This is 1800s England. What do you know about females and female processing and female anatomy?
As
what
a
do
woman.
you know as a woman?
Yeah.
It would have been like a different time.
It wouldn't have even been documented, her opinion either, would it? And that's the problem. There's no
No one's asked Elizabeth what she felt like.
No, well, no. I mean, she had been dead for 400 years at that point, so 300 years. So
There are Ouija boards. No, I'm just,
yeah.
Ouija board. Ouija. That'd be amazing.
Imagine if we did that
Oh
and
my
spoke to her.
Demonetized.
But it is. But I guess somebody like obviously you've got a very creative man there writing a story, and if you, I mean, I sort of kind of believe that he must have come up with it from somewhere. So I imagine he probably did go visit Bisley. He did hear this story, but equally, like all authors, like we sort of do with comedy, right? You take something and you go, "This is interesting," and then you turn it into a story. You turn it into something that's entertainment for people.
It's not a witness statement. You've
Yeah.
got to embellish upon it.
Yeah.
You know, it touches on the truth, but then that's the seed to watch the tree grow.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy on comedy.
Do you think he knew when he wrote it the what it would create, the legend that it would create?
So I know a little bit about Bram Stoker. So, like he was always in the shadows. Do you know what I mean? Like he was, you know, he
Well, it was a vampire, so.
right. He was deeply intimidated by Henry Irving. He worshipped him. Basically, the plot of Saltburn. And
I was wondering that when I was reading about that. Were they in a relationship? Because it kind of sounds like they were.
No. But it's like
Okay.
Bram Stoker. It's all very, very interesting. I've read a couple of biographies of Bram Stoker, and he wasn't a healthy boy. But like when you read his work, because he's not a great writer. He's a competent writer, which is a very different thing. Like Dracula's his best book by a clear margin, but there's lots of ideas, and he's very passionate. And he just didn't want to live the life that he was living. And that's where it all came from. So the idea that someone wasn't living the life that they wanted to live is very true to what he's doing. You know, in all of his books, like Dracula's Guest and the Star of the Seven Moons or something. I can't remember the Mummy one. I don't remember. He wrote Lair of the White Worm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the movie's much better. It coalesces all the ideas.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah, young, absolutely
Very
beautiful
young
Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Amanda Donohoe just being awesome.
It's a batshit crazy film. I'm not going to tell you it's a good film, but
It's
if you haven't
not,
seen
but
it, check it out.
it's definitely
so batshit.
Yeah.
I went to Bram Stoker's house once when in Dublin.
Yeah.
I think it was a childhood house. It's not that exciting. I thought there'd be more there. It's just someone lives in it. Like it's just a residential house. The only thing is just there's one plaque on a wall. That's it.
Wow.
It was a lot of effort to traipse to the suburbs of Dublin for that.
In my head, there's a basement filled with vampires and werewolves.
Oh yeah, they were there. Yeah. You could hear screams.
Henry Irving, I love you.
Yeah. So the reasons why the theory took hold. So when Elizabeth I sat on the English throne, the concept of a female monarch was still highly unusual. Monarchy and statecraft in general had been mostly a male domain. This, coupled with the fact that she never married or had children, seemed to transgress all that was expected of a woman by her contemporaries. Proponents of the theory say this explains a lot of Elizabeth's behaviour. She was known to wear heavy makeup, ruffs, and big clothing, all of which could be used to hide masculine features and keep people at a distance. Elizabeth, of course, was also the Virgin Queen who never married or had children. This was necessary, as otherwise it would have been discovered that she was in fact a man. Elizabeth was also very protective over her body and only trusted a few physicians who she allowed to attend her. Even then, she often waited with ailments for weeks before allowing her doctors to examine her closer. Before her death, she was also emphatically insistent that no post-mortem was to be performed on her body. Finally, Cat and Thomas's involvement seems confirmed by the comment of Sir Robert Tyrwhitt, who wrote in 1549, "I do verily believe that there hath been some secret promise between my lady, Mistress Ashley, and the coffiner, Thomas Perry, never to confess to death. Cat and Thomas remained close favourites of the Queen and were greatly rewarded by her when she became ruler, seeming to confirm that they were part of the conspiracy." In his book, Stoker drew heavily on such sources and cited Elizabeth's masculine tendencies. Stoker also claimed that Elizabeth's handwriting changed between 1542, when he said she had allegedly died, and 1543. Even in Elizabeth's lifetime, there were these rumours about her sexuality, her gender, and she was seen somehow as an oddity, says historian Tracy Borman, that you simply couldn't have a woman this brilliant, this gifted, that she had to have something physically that made her like this. Going to what you were talking about earlier, Bex. I mean, if you're 8 going on 9, your handwriting does change quite regularly year to year, doesn't it? Until probably your mid-teens, because like you're learning to write. So I don't think that's massively there's much in that, right? But again, you were talking earlier about male historians trying to find something to
Little nitpick thing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely. I think it was also mentioned somewhere else that the reason that Elizabeth was very weird about people getting close to her or like trying to form bonds with her is because she had all that experience of her dad, no offense, being an absolute twat.
Yeah.
Like to all these like 6 wives. Yeah. She saw like her mum get beheaded. Was Anne Boleyn her mum?
Yeah.
Get beheaded. She saw his other like wives get like thrown aside or just like thrown away when they didn't bear a son. And I think there's also other little bits like I heard when she was being trained to be a princess or be brought up to be a lady. There's also a lot of kind of slightly dodgy people who are involved in her upbringing.
Yeah.
Including I think there's rumours about like the husband of the wife of like a lady who was supposed to be looking after her, and her husband was very, very weird to a very young Elizabeth. So like there must have been a lot of stuff circling around that she didn't want people getting near her.
Yeah.
Or she was scared of people getting near her.
Or being talked as something that she could trade off. Certainly getting married off was a thing. It was a commodity.
She didn't want that.
No, she wanted to control.
Which is wild.
Oh wow, body
1500s
autonomy.
UK.
Wow. Yeah. Wild.
You would be like, given all of that, you would be quite you would be quite cautious, wouldn't you? Like, you would be very untrusting, as you say, to have a father like that who, by the sounds of it, was pretty distant anyway. Yeah. So you're going to have trust issues. It's not really surprising that she kept these two around her, and the idea that they were part of some conspiracy. I mean, if there was one, yes, they probably would have been, but I don't think that's the reason. It's just that she wanted people around her that she could trust, and if
just have friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's still the same now to a certain extent, right? If you look at the current royal family and what's happened recently, it's who can you trust around you and who can't you?
Yeah, I mean, the conspiracy theories around Kate Middleton and her health and whatever. I mean, that's kind of shocking. I mean, the photographs are weird. I will say the photograph that, but
they've not helped themselves, let's face it.
No.
Those aren't necessarily her fault.
No, they're not. No.
She said she did all the photoshopping herself, and it's like, no, she didn't.
No.
She had like people helping her.
Of course she did.
Yeah, and they did a bad job.
They did a terrible job. They do need to upgrade their photoshoppers. But
She's just been honest. Or at least honest-ish.
Yeah.
You can't be fully honest.
No, because I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm no lover of the royal family, but like if she's a relatively young woman, and if she's ill, that's not cool. I mean, look how everyone treated Kylie when she had the cancer scare, and we all love Kylie, queen of our hearts.
She's your true queen.
Oh my God, yes, and padam, and truly, but like I don't. It's weird the way we think because they're public that they're ours. And that's not true. That's she's a wife, she's a mother, she's a human being. I love the way I put that third. Wife and mother, most important thing a woman can be. I don't agree with that, Bex.
Okay.
No, because you can hit me if you want. No,
it's okay.
but like I just think I don't like it. I don't like it. Even though I have read all the conspiracy theories.
The one thing I would say about this conspiracy theory, and I would say in maybe it, which is a good thing, is that actually this came out this years after she died. So she never, well, as far as we know, never actually had to experience that, and there was no newspapers in the same way that there were hundreds of years later, or social media or anything like that that could have infiltrated her bubble in the same way that it can now. So the scrutiny wouldn't have been, I imagine, as bad. So at least she didn't have to live through it, I would hope.
No, I sorry, I didn't mean. I feel like I keep cutting you off. I'm so sorry.
All right, don't worry.
No. They hear me all the time. We want to hear. We want to hear you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a nice change, isn't it? She wants to hear what the little lady has to say, which is a nice change, isn't it? No, I'm being sarcastic now. What was I gonna? Yeah. What were we saying about Elizabeth I? Oh, yeah, the fact that like she didn't necessarily hear any of the scrutiny.
No.
I mean, like she probably did hear things, like because she was very much covered in heavy makeup, particularly the lead-based makeup, which would have messed up her skin. She knew that she had a certain image to uphold, particularly in paintings, and this whole idea of being the Virgin Queen. Like, was she a virgin? We don't know. We don't know.
Her and Walter Riley were.
Yeah.
They hung from the rafters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Who knows? She might have been, though. You don't know.
Yeah. But I suspect that wasn't the case. Like the Walter Riley was definitely
very, very popular.
Very, very popular. He was very, very dashing and handsome. And I think I might have this wrong. Francis Bacon was her son. That's one of the things that's suggested.
Oh, wow.
And
was Francis Bacon a lot younger than she was?
Yes. So Edward de Vere, who the 17th Earl of Oxford, was also rumoured to have been her son.
Yeah.
So, but Edward de Vere is also the person that wrote the Shakespearean plays.
Oh.
There you go.
Some of them, maybe.
Oh.
Well,
That's another conspiracy.
Queen Elizabeth wrote the other of the Shakespearean plays. Yeah, she's one of the. Who wrote the Shakespearean plays? What was Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Because there is a real argument in Shakespeare to say that it's written from a female point of view. Like women are the educators in Shakespeare. Like every one of the
There's
plays.
definitely a variation in the way that they're written that doesn't suggest style-wise that they match. I do agree with that. I'm not saying Shakespeare didn't write all of them, because I think he did write some of them. But there are some that you just think it doesn't feel like it's written by the same hand.
Yeah, was Kit Marlowe involved and all that? Yeah. I love all that. But I mean, Shakespeare's great, and the sonnets are some of the most beautiful pieces of art you will ever experience.
So, who was the boy? Who exactly was the boy that supposedly masqueraded as Elizabeth until 1603 when the Queen died? Stoker claims it was an unknown son of Mary Howard and Henry Fitzroy. Fitzroy was Henry VIII's illegitimate son, and it appears that the suggestion of his mysterious progeny, later becoming the Elizabeth known to history, rests on a supposed family resemblance. That seems like a stretch. When I read that, I was like, okay, so they went to this village and they found not only a boy that looked like her, but a relative living in the... I don't know.
But I mean, like King Henry VIII had lots of illegitimate kids.
He did. That's true. So the Queen Victoria comparison. When the Bisley boy theory began to gain traction 300 years later, another queen...
Victoria?
Yeah. So this rumor started properly during Queen Victoria's reign.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry.
So it's because Bram Stoker released this, or was sort of writing about this at that time, at the same time that Queen Victoria was on the throne. The Victorians, like their Tudor forebearers, regarded Elizabeth as peculiar, especially when contrasted with their era's queen. After all, Victoria, although sovereign, was conventional. She'd married early in her reign. She had 9 children. She herself said that it was wife first and queen second. So you could see kind of how he's writing in a time where so-called conventional queen, leaving a conventional life, and quite charismatic, quite queen, wasn't she? And I guess that would have built on the influence, right, for this particular theory.
Yes, because look the way Queen Elizabeth was, look the way Queen Victoria is, And they're very, very different. But it was also different worlds, you know.
Yeah.
And Queen Victoria didn't have the dispute around her sovereignty.
Yeah.
The way that Elizabeth did. Elizabeth was fighting for her life. And that's why she signed the death warrant for Mary, Queen of Scots. That's why Elizabeth did all that. And also said, "Oh, I didn't know I signed it," but she did. Like it was all the political machinations. Whereas Queen Victoria was much more astute.
Also, didn't she didn't in her diary say that, oh, I like having sex, but I don't actually like the byproduct.
The 9 children.
Yeah, she didn't necessarily like them. So it's like, it's a very weird, like...
I think you're right, actually. She wasn't overly keen on all of them.
Queen Victoria, was known to have a healthy libido, not just because of the 9 kids. It was well known. And when Albert died, she went into mourning and then became Mrs. Brown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Billy
Billy
Connolly.
Connolly.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? And if you watch that movie, Billy Connolly is so fit. There's a nude scene in it. Billy Connolly's with his brother running through the shores. And you're like, oh, fucking Billy Connolly's fit as fuck. Yeah. Nice ass. So you can totally. And he wears a kilt. Like he's all Scottish and sexy. Sorry, I've got very distracted.
Do you remember when he got naked in Piccadilly Circus for, I think it was for comic relief?
For Red Nose Day?
Yeah, he
For Red
got
Nose
naked
Day?
and stuff.
Was that when Red Nose Day was still all right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's when it was still good. When people
Still
watched
funny.
it, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, he did that. Fully naked for like, you know, he didn't look quite as good as he did in Mrs. Brown.
No.
Like in Mrs. Brown, he's quite lean.
But he probably thought, "Fuck it, I've already been naked on film." Doesn't matter.
Who of us haven't, Phil?
Okay, so evidence that debunks the theory. Despite Stoker's insistence that such a child existed, Borman points out that the Fitzroy died before he and Mary Howard had any children. So conceivably they couldn't have had Neville in the first place. She believes that Stoker conjured up such a boy to account for the royal family's seeming obliviousness to a decoy within their midst. He weaves in Henry Fitzroy because he said this boy has a resemblance to Henry VIII and therefore to Elizabeth, says Borman, but notes that even though Henry VIII didn't see Elizabeth all that frequently, it was certainly frequently enough to have realised that she'd been swapped for an imposter.
You're not my little girl.
Well, yeah, you just know, wouldn't you? The theory does not stand up to even the smallest bit of scrutiny, but it certainly makes for a dramatic story. The idea that the king wouldn't notice his child was suddenly very different, even if he was at times a distant father. That a boy from a rural town could swiftly be given the education that Elizabeth had to bring him up to scratch.
She was very well educated.
She was very well educated, considering her skills in music, needlework, dancing, and her ability to speak and write multiple languages. You'd know, wouldn't you?
You would know, yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly, one day your daughter is speaking Latin, and the next day you got a lad who's like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
So is something, Neville. Oh, God.
I don't know.
Just picking his nose and eating it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What's this needlework? I don't know. I've got labourer's hands, Henry.
Can I just say that is a
Just
film
a
I'd
little
love to
wee
see.
bit.
Oh my
I'd
god.
see
be so
Neville. It would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
See Neville struggling.
Like a weird My Fair Lady / Pygmalion role reverse.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
totally. We
like
need
to
to
be-
make that.
We'll
We
make
need
that.
to make that film.
Yeah, that's your next show after this
What?
one, Bex. After Bexual Healing, this is your next
Well,
show.
well,
The story
My
of
Fair
Neville.
Lady. Neville.
Yeah.
I'd probably get reviewers in then. Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was dark.
She's really telling the story.
Wow, I know.
Finally, someone's telling the
Don't
story.
need to get naked
Yeah.
either.
Story, yeah.
I know. No one woman nonsense. Just pure class. No, so creative, isn't
Yeah.
it, for a woman?
If you relate it to history, it's classy then. So it's fine. Yeah.
Just wink at the audience and do fourth person. It'd be amazing. Lots of priests.
And that a princess and monarch who was surrounded at all times by servants and courtiers was never noticed to be anything other than a girl and woman are preposterous. If any further evidence was needed, there are contemporary accounts of Elizabeth's womanhood later in life. For one marriage proposal, a panel of doctors inspected the Queen to ascertain whether she would be capable of bearing children, unlike her sister, Queen Mary I. At another time, ex-brother-in-law Philip II of Spain bribed her laundress again to see whether Elizabeth would be able to have children, and the laundress confirmed that the Queen was menstruating.
Oh, get that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
I don't think the laundress would need to check.
Yeah.
Surely, like if she's your laundress, you'd know anyway, right?
just like take him over to the bed and be like that.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh,
Send him in the
no,
post.
She is a boy.
Yeah. There is no contemporary evidence of Elizabeth even having been in Gloucestershire at the time, let alone dying in childhood, or of having become the subject of rumours about being a man. Elizabeth's private life remains a magnet for scrupulous gossip and outright misogyny, with tales often entailing passionate dalliances with multiple men and an array of love children. Bourman contends that this leads to a reductive understanding of a highly intelligent and shrewd woman operating in a patriarchal society. In other words, that she had to either live with a string of male lovers helping and guiding her, or she had to be a man.
I don't think she did either of those things. I'm not saying she was a virgin. I do think her and Walter Riley danced. But yeah.
Isn't there like a weird like Elizabethan dance like they showed in the Tudors, where it's like a weird erotic dance of lovers?
Yeah, being able to dance was very, very important, and because it said a lot. There was communication through dance as well, because men and women really didn't fraternize with each other, and so dancing was how you did it. Like you typically hung out with people of your own gender. Even as the queen, like she was surrounded by ladies in waiting. That's actually one of the things that, again, about her saying that she's a man, because she did engage men. Like she was a general.
Yeah.
We've all seen Queen Elizabeth played by Cate Blanchett. I may have the body of a woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king.
Yeah.
And so she was very aware of the gender politics there.
In fairness, of all the things it says that Neville can't do, doesn't mention dancing.
Yeah. Oh.
Neville could have been a mover.
Yeah.
Oh, bless Neville.
I love the idea of Neville.
Just being like a really good dancer. That's his own.
That's the only thing. We found a ginger boy that could dance. Stick him in.
Stick him in.
Yeah.
That's all it takes to be a queen.
I think it's about this
Queen.
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 Oh, I love that. That's
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth. Bourman also sees a tragic parallel between Elizabeth and her mother, Anne Boleyn. Anne was judged not by her mind or her achievements, but or her abilities, but on her body. And I think that's what it boils down to with both queen consorts and queen regnants. If they don't fulfill the basic female functions, then people almost can't get past that. Speculation about Elizabeth's private life takes the spotlight away from what we should be looking at, which are Elizabeth's achievements and also her failures. It's a distraction from studying her foreign policy, her court life, her contribution to English culture. All these are really important and fascinating subjects. The legend that Elizabeth was secretly a man stemmed from a rural urban legend that was perpetuated by misogyny. The idea that such a great ruler who fought against the norms of her times could not possibly be anything other than a man. It is safe to say that the story is just that. Legend. And she did contribute an enormous amount, didn't she?
Yeah, she wrote Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But she did. She's a great leader, and I might have this wrong because I'm not a historian. I'm a conspiracy theorist. But she became like the idea of the modern monarch.
Yeah.
Okay.
The much more human. Much even though they were a leader, even though they were the leader of the spirit. They were spiritually the king or the queen. She was much more approachable and human. I mean, she's iconic. Who was the king or after her? I don't know. It's King James, isn't it? But like,
Probably.
he had a Bible.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's all he had, isn't it? Bible.
Yeah,
Bible.
Yeah.
Couldn't dance.
Couldn't
Yeah.
Not like
But
old Nev.
he was a big homosexual.
Yeah.
At least I'm told he was. I kind of love that, talking to American Christians going, King James Bible is the best Bible. I'm going, yeah, but it was written, it was commissioned by a homosexual. No, King James wasn't homosexual. Yeah, well, pretty much
He was
was.
a little bit fruity though, wasn't he?
Oh, well, though, Lord, to be fair, come on.
A lot. Wow.
If you're the top of the food chain, you'll eat everything.
Well, so think about it. Mad King George is only really popular because of like one film and then of Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really look. He's got that whole iPhone face. Have you heard of that phenomenon? Where like a celebrity, you can tell that they wouldn't work in a period drama because they've got that iPhone Instagram influencer face.
Yeah.
Like people like, is it Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria? The blonde, blondie, and
I love Sydney Sweeney.
yeah, she's nice. Or Jacob Elordi has iPhone face because It doesn't look like you'd fit in a 1950s like foils war, does he?
Yeah, yeah.
There are certain faces that look of their time.
Yeah.
You know, I moved from Northern Ireland a while ago, and I didn't think I looked like I came from Northern Ireland. And then I saw pictures of myself recently. I went, I look like an Irishman. I've got the big head, I got the hair coloring. Like, you know, if you're not ginger, you're pale blue eyes and dark hair, and that's very, very traditional.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. Okay, like the shields have fallen from my eyes. I can walk around. I bet you he's Irish. Bet you he's Irish. Bet you she's Irish. Yeah.
Who do we want to play Neville if they ever make Neville's story?
I think it would make for an interesting story, but because it's fantasy, you know, because it is misogyny that directed this, you know, or anti-royalist sentiment. No.
You should get Fenella. What's her name from Saltburn? What was the director's name?
Emerald Fennell. Emerald Fennell. Who played Midge in the Barbie movie.
Oh yeah, she should direct the film.
She should direct the film.
Yeah,
Neville's
Doesn't
story.
make it another F the posh film.
Yeah.
But it's with Neville instead of.
And there should definitely be dance numbers.
Oh.
Well, there will do.
Yeah,
'cause
well,
Neville-
she has to have Murder on the Dance Floor in another movie.
And a shagging of a grave, but it's actually Elizabeth I's grave. Just doing it to prove a point.
Who of us haven't shagged a grave?
Oh, sleep.
Worst thing about that is, according to this, it'd be a child's grave.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. No. No, I meant grown up Elizabeth.
Yeah, we know. Okay, so we don't really need to ask this. So, do we think Elizabeth I was a man?
What, me?
Yeah.
No. No.
David?
They would have known if she died.
Yeah, of course they would.
No,
Of course they would.
No. I do think she was a ginger, but I don't think she was a man.
No.
Yeah. Fair.
I think this is one of the most ludicrous ones, and I think we can see where it came from. I mean, I think it would be a great film, but it is totally stupid.
Yeah. It was one that I didn't really know about.
Me neither, but I just found it interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you
picked
picked this one. It was fascinating to dig into this. And there's so much in this, and the subject of this is the way that we rewrite history, or the way that the influences of historians on the way we think about the past, and how much we rely on that narrative, but we forget that narrative is written by a human being with an opinion and their own personal
agenda.
Their own agenda. Yeah. And that's why you can't trust everything you read.
No, apart from Lucy Worsley, who's a babe.
Bex, would you like to look into that camera, tell people where they can find you, what you're doing, everything about you, where you're doing your show, all that kind of stuff?
Okay, hi. So I'm very excited because, as you heard earlier on, I am doing a new comedy solo show called Bexual Healing. It's a character comedy hour of 45 minutes to an hour. And I will actually be doing a few previews of this show in the upcoming months. The first one will be on April 17th, 7:30 p.m. And then the second one is on June 22nd, 9 p.m. And these are both at Penn Theatre. I'm doing little previews of my show. Please do come, audience, because it's really important for me to get ticket sales for these previews, because otherwise I have to pay a direct fee, please.
Great venue, Penn Theatre in Bermondsey. Really,
nice.
really lovely
I'm looking forward to see it. I haven't been there before.
It's great.
I'm intrigued.
I've done a couple of shows there. It's great.
It
Yeah,
looks
really
good.
good place. Yes.
And then I'm also, if I can afford it, I'm also going to be doing a one-off show at the Camden Fringe on the 16th of August, and that's 6:30 p.m. at the Aces and Eights, where Troy Club is.
Woohoo! That is also a fantastic venue. Actually, one of the best venues.
It's a really nice venue.
It is.
I like it. It's good, nice. I haven't had the pizzas yet, but it looks.
The pizzas are so good.
Are they really good at
Really
it?
good.
I haven't
God.
had them there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I might treat myself for like dinner after it or something. Yeah. In there,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great room. Go and see Bex's show. It is great. Both those venues are fantastic. And there'll be very few shows you have as much fun as this.
Thank you.
It's the truth.
Where can people find you on social media? What's your handle?
Oh, sure. So I am both on Twitter and Instagram. Just look up at Bex Turner Comedy.
There you go. At Bex Turner Comedy. Bex, would you like a Henry VIII show to end the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, of course you would.
Or is it dark or is it alright?
No, not really.
Okay, go for it. Do it. I
Good.
don't mind. Do it dark.
Yeah, because we haven't gone dark in this episode. I saw a man on the street dressed as Henry VIII. He was sitting on the sidewalk asking people for money. I thought, that can't be right. Beggars can't be Tudors. That's not that bad.
It's nice.
That's not that bad, is it?
I genuinely laugh.
See, for once.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
once.
it's fun.
That's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye!
Please like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. The more lovely subscribers we get, the more episodes we'll make. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok for regular updates and exclusive videos at BelieveConspiracyPod. We love you. Bye!